So the liberal left is losing their mind after the historic loss of Kamala Harris in the 2024 presidential election. Let's talk about it on Azimuth Podcast.
I'm sorry. No! Why? Why? Do you really hate me that bad?
We have literally lost the plot. We have lost the plot.
I just woke back up. What the f*** is going on? America, y'all dead ass? Dead ass? Come on, bro. Damn. What are we about to do?
Votes at this time. That means he needs 23 more. Pennsylvania has 19 electoral votes. Michigan.
I've been crying in my room for the past hour. For the past fucking hour. And people saying, oh, but New York is blue. I don't give a f*** New York is blue. Like, the fact that this man is a president now.
Well, that was fun. I'm Barrett McNabb, and with me is Kimberly McNabb. So Kamala Harris is a flawed candidate, and this absolutely just showed why she was not the right pick for this presidential cycle for the Democrats. Kimberly, what are some of the reasons why you think Kamala Harris lost?
Well, Ben Shapiro put it very well. He said, whoever it turns out to be a referendum on is the one who's going to lose. If it's a referendum on Trump, he's going to lose. If it's a referendum on her, she's going to lose. I would say this showed that this election was a referendum not just on her,
right,
but the Democratic Party itself. I mean, for her, first of all, you have to ask the question, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Most people, unless you're making money off of this inflation stuff, no, you're not. I speak for us, we're not. Pretty much everybody I know says no, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Kamala's policies, there weren't any forever until like the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks before the election.
She copy-pasted from Biden.
And she copy and pasted from Biden. But the big thing was her saying, I have 32, 42, doesn't matter what it is, Nobel laureate economists that say my economic plan is going to be better.
I believe it was 16.
16? Okay.
Yeah.
So I exaggerated that, but still, what economic plan? What economic plan are you touting that these 16 Nobel laureate economists are touting?
And she could never articulate it. She just kept saying, opportunity economy, and many people asked her what that meant, and she could never do a good job of explaining what it was.
I mean, she was saying that she was going to jumpstart the economy by giving black men small business loans for them to set up weed businesses.
Forgivable loans.
Yeah, forgivable loans. And so, I mean, here we go. So that was going to be her economic plan is to introduce more marijuana into the economy and give away effectively free money for black men to set up businesses. Now, never mind the fact that goes right into her identity politics.
It's also illegal.
Yeah, I mean, at the federal level, absolutely. And so, one of the things I really had a heartburn with, and I think a lot of Democrats did too, there was no primary. There was no primary for her to, be picked by the American people, but specifically the Democrat Party, for her to be their candidate. One of the things I think I've seen back and forth in the news, universe is that, or the mainstream media universe, is that there's some anger at Joe Biden for even, running in this election cycle, to even attempt to try and run in the 2024 election, and that he should have put, had an open primary. And my counter argument to that, with in a gape mouth, is that there was a primary. There was a Democrat primary, and there were multiple candidates who ran in that primary. Not one was Kamala Harris in that primary.
No.
She did not primary participate. But you had Dean Phillips that was trying and going through.
Yeah, they actively shut down anybody who tried and said, no, if you do manage to get any delegates, we're going to assign them a Biden, which I just don't.
It just intrinsically unfair, which is why RFK Jr., who was running as in the primary as a Democrat candidate, had to leave because he literally was being shut out from any type of participation in a primary. So for the liberal pundits to say, well, Biden should have had a primary, there was a primary. There was a primary, and Biden won it after the Democratic Party made it so that it was physically impossible for anybody else to run against Biden. But Kamala could have stood up and said, I'm running against Joe Biden at that time. But she didn't have the backbone to do that.
No, you got to toe the line if you're on the left. But that whole process was just should have been glaringly obvious to the American people that this is no longer the JFK Democratic Party. When you shut out a Kennedy, like the brand name of what it used to mean to be a Democrat, you're talking about a different breed of animal entirely.
I couldn't agree more. And to go to kind of piggyback onto that about this not being the Democrat Party from 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, you have the Democrats that on their messaging have abandoned the core people that supposedly were, the bulk of their, constituency. And that is working class Americans and also middle class, but still specifically working class Americans, I think have been left behind by this party, and the messaging showed it. I mean, the Democrat Party is primarily catering to university, college indoctrinated students, indoctrinated graduates. So I don't like to call them college graduates. I like to call them college indoctrinates, and they have just hook, line, and sinker grabbed onto all of this he, him, she, her, they, them, type of identification, calling Latina women Latinx. I mean, they don't know what planet you're from when you're a Democrat and you say, well, yeah, the Latinx population, the Latinos and Latinas, they think you're stupid when you're talking to them and that you're trying to be PC, but you're just insulting them and their heritage.
Well, that's because they have things other than just language. They have actual things to do.
Right. No, yeah, I agree. And so for the working class to just be kind of set aside, I think is just a huge mistake on the Democrat Party. Now, I've always said that, with the Republican coalition that they have, if they could ever get the union vote, and by the union vote, I mean the working class vote, they would be wildly successful. And that's exactly what happened. So I'm glad I called that one on the head.
Yeah, I mean, the Democratic Party just showed that it's a party about elitism, and it's been glaringly obvious throughout most of this administration, from saying, oh, well, we want no gas-powered cars by 2032 when the average American can't afford to spend yet another $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 on cars that have been jacked up so much in price the last 4 years. They can't afford it. We spent, $1 billion, billions of dollars for more power stations to be set up throughout the United States, and what they set up, like 8 or something.
Right.
I mean, people can't afford it. They don't want it. It's not effective for these semis. You can't do it. It makes cars weigh thousands of pounds more, so they're more likely to get destroyed in a car accident because you go the same rate of speed, put more force, more weight behind it. It's going to do more damage.
Absolutely.
And it's putting more weight on our infrastructure. But anyway, I could go on forever about that. So no gas stoves, but yet you're taking pictures of Kamala Harris and Doug Emhoff cooking in the kitchen with a gas-powered stove.
Yeah. And
how many people live in Texas? How many people live in Florida? How many people live in hurricane-prone areas? And if you're without power without a week and you have little kids, you don't want gas-powered water heaters. You don't want gas-powered stoves. So you're not supposed to take a shower for a week, or you're supposed to take a cold shower for
We're
a
not
week.
supposed to cook.
I think most Americans would be pretty PO'd if you had to tell them they had to go without hot showers.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. So, you mentioned earlier that Josh Shapiro, and she failed to pick him as her VP, and the general consensus is that he is such a dynamic character that he would have overshadowed her. And her vanity said, I can't have somebody that's going to look better than me.
Well, who does that leave? That leaves Tim Walz.
Tim Walz. So you pick Tim Walz. So you lose Pennsylvania because you didn't pick Josh Shapiro, who's the governor of Pennsylvania, out of vanity. And that potentially cost you the whole election.
Well, yeah, I think that was another big difference between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party this time, because despite his flaws, Obama, he's like, okay, I'm not going to pick someone smarter than me. Biden.
Right.
Well, who's worse than Biden? Harris.
Yeah.
And it's just this trickle-down telephone effect where it's just you get the ultimate form of stupidity. I'm a knucklehead. But then on the other side of the aisle, you have Donald Trump. Now, he's known for not liking to get criticized, but he is known for picking smart people.
Right.
Now, last time, Pence, good guy, but not a J.D. Vance.
Right.
And Trump, he wasn't afraid to pick a very intelligent man and someone who could go and get the work done.
Oh, yeah.
He would go in the lion's den.
Yeah, J.D. Vance, he went home with a light coat of sweat every single day. Getting out there, being in interviews, answering the tough questions, whereas,
graciously,
even going into hostile environments and getting tough questions asked of him. Whereas Kamala Harris only went on one, quote unquote combative with Brett Baer on Fox News, and she didn't even answer.
Cut short.
Yeah, she cut short. She showed up late, and so she had canned answers. He asked specific questions, and she went into memorized campaign rhetoric that didn't answer the question. And people saw right through that. Now, one of the things that I'd heard about, getting back to Shapiro, was that Obama had influenced him not to take the job. If she did call him and choose him as the VP candidate, don't take the job, because Obama felt that Kamala Harris was a flawed candidate. And in fact, when Joe Biden pulled out of the race and he tapped Kamala Harris, Obama, he put out in a text message that he hopes that there would be a vigorous primary at the convention. But then Hillary Clinton endorsed Kamala Harris.
Everyone else quickly fell in line.
Jumped in. But if you notice, it took 3 days before Barack Obama endorsed Kamala Harris, and he was actually really mad that everybody jumped on her and telephonically, she was collecting up primary electors and completely circumvented the potential primary at the Democrat National Convention. So he was actually mad, and he really would have preferred Shapiro not to be the VP, because Obama saw Kamala as a flawed candidate and didn't want to tarnish his reputation.
Save him for later.
Save him for later. Yeah.
Well, let's go back to further examples of how the Democratic Party showed itself to be a party of elitism. Come on, when Hawaii, Lanai,
right.
When the fires were happening in Hawaii,
yep.
Come on, how long did
Maui,
it take Biden to show up? And then, of course, he had to break out, oh, my house was nearly destroyed in a kitchen fire. Come on.
Not the same thing.
When you're suffering a loss, do you want to hear about someone else's loss, especially something that really wasn't a loss? Right. It's just out of touch, and it's not welcome in any conversation. So they got, $700? That covers nothing.
Right.
I mean, you could easily spend that on a hotel stay in Hawaii.
Consequently, it's the same amount of money that they gave in North Carolina.
Well, $750 if you could get it. Again, your home is destroyed. Some of your family members are missing or dead. $750 covers nothing.
No.
If you could get it. And then it took Kamala Harris a long time to, I think she did show up for a short bit, but it took a long time. Whereas Trump, hello, he had already been there. And he spent a lot of time there. It's like, which one do you think is more genuine? Like, if you lose a family member and you have someone come like before the funeral, like help you out and stuff, versus a family member that shows up like as the funeral is ending and they lay one flower on the casket and then they leave, which one's more genuine?
Right.
So it's just so out of touch. And, you know, the left, they love to make all these policies that affect everyone else. We're going to let all these illegals in. We're going to dump them in the middle of Chicago in the poorest neighborhoods. We're going to dump them in Springfield, Ohio, where, you know, it's a small amount of residents and they don't make that much money. Oh, but you got to deal with it. You got to pay the price. Have fun with that.
Yeah, I mean,
but not my $2 million home.
That's one of the things that you know, just goes to show you how the Democrats are out of touch just by virtue of class. So black men and Latino men felt as though the Democrat Party was prioritizing illegal immigrants over their needs. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the reasons why they turned out for President Trump in droves. And, you know, Kamala lost, a big chunk of that electorate. Another chunk of the electorate that Kamala lost were Catholics. Mm-hmm. And so in the 2020 election, Catholics went 49% for Trump, 50% for Biden. And in this election, Catholics did 10 points for Trump. And so Trump he gained 11 points out of the Catholic vote. And in interviewing a lot of Catholics, it was directly related to Kamala skipping the Alfred Smith dinner in New York City and snubbing the Catholics by doing so.
Well, you know, that dinner was hardly the only thing that she snubbed. And, if you have a friend, you invite them to all these things, to birthday parties, New Year's Eve celebrations, barbecues, whatever. You invite them to a lot of stuff and they don't show up. Eventually, you're like, well, screw you.
Right.
I'm not going to invite you to anything. And guess what? You weren't invited to be the American president.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly true. I mean, there are certain things that you have to do. And
you mean put in the work as she put in her concession speech?
Yeah, you have to put in the work. And my mother always raised me, do the things you have to do before you do the things you want to do. And attending the Al Smith dinner is something that presidential candidates have to do. I mean, you have to do.
I mean, and come on, you don't want to believe in black cats and, bad luck and all that stuff. But do you really want to take the chance when it comes to the presidency?
Yeah, I mean, the last person that skipped the Al Smith dinner also lost.
Yes.
So I mean, go figure. But having this wishy-washy policy and the star-studded rock star after pop star coming out for her, it didn't resonate as much as people think with the American people, or as much as the Democrat strategists thought that getting Taylor Swift and Beyonce and things like that would Cardi B to jump out for her. This is not high school. This is not a popularity contest anymore. This is for the real deal and economics and putting food on people's tables. And that's something that the Democrat strategists in the campaign, Harris campaign, failed to realize.
Yeah, it just showed, once again, Democratic Party is way out of touch. We don't care about Taylor Swift. All these people are just shiny but hollow husk of human beings. They sold their souls a long time ago. Many of them have been famous and rich for decades, if not their entire life. And human nature is to get very, very spoiled.
Right.
Very, very quickly. And so if you've been filthy rich, and I'm not going to, wish it away from anybody.
Right.
But you forget common things. You don't have to go to the grocery store. If you have a flat tire, you can afford to have another driver come pick you up, and the little peon that works for you deal with it. you don't have real problems, and so many of these people don't even have kids, so that's definitely off their radar.
Well, I mean,
it's like I don't have Taylor Swift that's going to come talk to me. What the American people see is, okay, you endorse her, but when I can't afford groceries, when I can't afford rent, or when my apartment complex is being taken over by Venezuelan gangs, is Taylor Swift going to come help me? No. Is Oprah going to come help me? No. She's still going to be in her mansion in Hawaii or California or whichever one she wants to stay in that weekend.
Right. I mean, honestly, just think about it. When was the last time Taylor Swift got in a shopping cart and went up and down all the aisles of her local grocery store picking out items? When is the last time Oprah Winfrey went up and down the aisles picking out items? And you're going to say, well, they're famous and they have security issues. Yeah, everybody does. Everybody has security issues because there is rampant crime going on, and the FBI had lied about it, and the Democrats said, look, crime's going down.
That these elites wanted to, defund the police.
Right. And somehow they influenced the FBI to release a report that crime is down, and the FBI had to retract that, and they had to quietly say, look, crime's up 6%, and
that's what's reported.
And that's what's reported. I mean, so this is just a huge disconnect with the star power of trying to get people to vote for Kamala Harris in this quote unquote historic election where you have the potential of electing a female to president. You have a chance to elect a black Indian American for president, and that's what she ran on. And there are, as you saw in the montage and before, the people were sad that a woman wasn't elected president and that a black person / Indian American wasn't elected president. But the thing that they are saying is that the rest of America, the majority of America, were bigoted and sexist and racist and things like that, and don't take a look back that she was a flawed candidate. She lost not because she's a woman and America is sexist. She lost not because she's black and America is racist. She lost because she couldn't articulate and make the case, prosecute, if you will, the case that she should be the president of the United States. It doesn't matter if you're black, purple, green, polka dotted. I don't care. You need to make sure that you make the case to me, earn my vote, and tell me how you're going to make America better.
Well, that prosecutor thing is another way in which she flip-flopped. She said she wanted to fundraise for the bail for BLM rioters,
right.
But then when it's time to run for president, she's like, oh, I was a persecutor. First of all, you have to be able to make a closing case to be a prosecutor. And I have never seen any clips of her making a good opening statement or
right.
closing statement. And I'm willing to bet good money that if you go search through all the cases that her name's supposedly on, she's never the leading prosecutor. I'm willing to bet she always had peons do it.
Yeah, I mean, good on her. She had a staff that covered for her. But when she gets up and says, "I'm the only person that's ever prosecuted a international transatlantic and transnational international gangs," man, you didn't come up with that. It's kind of the same. I love me some General Petraeus, but General Petraeus is David Petraeus is portrayed as the father of counterinsurgency operations, or COIN. It's not like he went into a cave and slept on a bed of nails eating dried bay leaves as he was coming up with counterinsurgency doctrine. He had a staff of hundreds of people that wrote that. He just has his signatures on it. But honestly, this is just silly for her to claim all of this work. I mean, she didn't do the work and make the case to the American people, and I think it's because she's lazy.
Oh, yes. There are many clips of Judge Joe Brown calling her lazy, and he dealt with her a lot. So
right.
I'm kind of sad that President Trump didn't have him speaking at rallies, because he had a lot of stories about her, and he is quite entertaining about it. But I want to go back to the whole, you didn't elect a black woman for president. Again, another argument for the Democratic Party being out of touch with the American people, saying, we think you're so dumb, you're so shallow, that you'll just elect a door frame, put the label female on it, and it can win president. I'm sorry, we're smarter than that.
Right. Well, I mean, and again, this identity politics of putting people into buckets and putting people into silos. So, touting the white dudes for Kamala, touting the women for Kamala, touting the Hispanics. When you start siloing all of the races, you're not bringing the races together. You're not bringing them together. You are putting them into buckets, and you're keeping them separate, and that is a huge travesty. And I think it's a miss for the Democrat Party. People want to put food on the table. People want to live in freedom. People want to have freedom of speech. Notice I didn't say black people want to put food on their table. I didn't say white people want to put food on their table. I didn't say brown people want to put food on their table. I said people. Americans want to put food on their table. Americans want all of these things. And we need to stop identifying people by their race.
Well, the whole division thing, it's a whole Mao's cultural revolution, Marxism, like divide people, break up families. You know what? When people are divided, they're easier to conquer, right?
And that's something that I really kind of took offense to, is the last 3 weeks of the campaign, the Harris campaign was releasing videos and TV commercials about how to have wives sneak around past their husbands in order to cast votes for Kamala Harris. That women aren't strong enough to be able to tell their husband, I'm voting this way and here's why. But you can go ahead and vote for Kamala Harris and your husband will never know. Or men, you can vote for Kamala Harris and you don't have to tell your friends. If it's secretive, if we have to be secretive in order to vote for Kamala Harris, she might not be the right candidate.
Well, also, it's I would take it as a little insulting to the American people, saying, we think your relationship is so dysfunctional. This is what you have to do. And, but it's just par for the course, because I think Julia Roberts was the voice over it. And guess where dysfunctional marriages are quite popular? Hollywood.
Hollywood, yeah.
I'm sorry, not the rest of us don't live in Hollywood. Thank you very much.
Maybe all these Hollywood divorcees that, their marriage only lasted 6 weeks and stuff like that might not be the best people to be giving marital advice on how to cast your ballot and sneak around your spouse.
Yeah.
I mean, that might just me. But another I think problem that the Harris campaign has was single issue voters. They're one of my least favorite voting bloc. The people that only have one issue, and it doesn't matter if the rest of the world is on fire, as long as their issue is not met, then they will or will not vote for that person. And this year's issue was abortion. And
it's almost every election cycle's issue.
Well, I mean, but still, she made a big case for if you vote for Donald Trump, you're going national abortion ban, and he specifically said that he was not doing that. But she kept just hammering it down, and it was this message. The other thing that Kamala, the whole trend of her campaign was but Trump. But Trump. But what are you going to do here? But Trump. That was her answer for everything. And it was the last, I want to say it was the last week of the election, and the campaign specifically said and put out their feelers to the New York Times and to various news outlets, specifically put out a message that says, I don't know if you noticed, but she is not going to say Trump's name in the last week of the election. And so, and she didn't. She would say, my opponent or, whatever.
The devil we not speak of.
Yeah. So I mean, for her to, her campaign to deliberately, hey, did you notice she's not saying his name? It is too late. It is too late the last week of the election to stop. But Trump, syndrome.
Well, yeah, he's such an effective Hitler. He brings together RFK, brings together Tulsi Gabbard, brings together Vivek Ramaswamy. I mean, all these people, and yet her party's dividing people.
Yeah.
Which is more divisive? Hitler divided the Germans from the Jews and the Gypsies.
I mean, literally, it was the racial and religious stovepiping and separation identity politics that the Democrats supposedly accused the Republicans of doing. Honestly, we're so glad the election's over. One, so that I stop getting all these text messages for $2 and $5 and will I take this poll and that poll and things like that. So I'm glad for that. But I am proud of the United States and to have Donald Trump win the Electoral College, and I'm very confident that he's going to get 312 Electoral College votes. But on top of that, to win the national popular vote by 5 million
almost
people.
5 million people, so that the left cannot be like, yeah, this is fair, or we want to ban the Electoral College. I mean, what? What'd you say? What'd you say?
Exactly.
Oh, no. But I'm always proud to be American.
Yes.
But I am especially proud of America's ability, despite the media, despite the biased media, despite everything, to call bullshit.
Yep.
We didn't let identity politics divide us because other countries have fallen for that. In Mao's cultural China, they divided up families. Oh, we're going to, the kids are going to report you to, the government. We didn't fall for it. Another day to live. We didn't fall for it.
And
so
I'm glad.
I'm very proud.
Yeah, I am too. So thank you so much for tuning into Azimuth Podcast, and please stay tuned after these messages.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy our show with all the stories we share, we would love your support.
And it's as easy as clicking that subscribe or follow button. This will ensure you never miss an episode and keeps us bringing you these important stories. Your support makes a huge difference. Thank you so much for being part of our podcast family.
Thanks, and keep tuning in.